Grenville, Thousand Islands, and Rideau Lakes.
Lost in yesterday's budget bonanza was the announcement of the appointment of the interim ethics commissioner, a Miss Martine Richard. Can the Prime Minister confirm and for the House and reassure Canadians that Miss Martine Richard is not the same person who is the sister-in-law of the Intergovernmental Affairs Minister who has been found guilty of breaking the Conflict of Interest Act?
Oh! This got good.
The member opposite will know is somebody who's a career public servant who in fact was engaged by the Stephen Harper government to come into the Ethics Commissioner's office. They are number 2 in the office and have been working in the Ethics Commissioner's office for over a decade. And it makes absolute and complete logical sense that they would be acting on an interim capacity after all of that information that I've just shared. And the member, of course, would be aware that an ethical screen always exists to ensure no such conflict occurs.
A member for Leeds, Grenville, Thousand Islands, and Rideau Lakes.
Mr. Speaker, they've got to be kidding. I guess they got tired of being found guilty. The Intergovernmental Affairs Minister, the new Ethics Commissioner's sister or brother-in-law, was found guilty of breaking the Ethics Act. The Prime Minister was found guilty of breaking the Act. The Trade Minister was found guilty of breaking the Act. This is a cabinet of serial lawbreakers, and now they've got an inside man working at the Ethics Commissioner's office. How can Canadians have confidence in the officers of Parliament if these guys are stacking the deck?
Oh my God!
Government House Leader.
Mr. Speaker, first of all, Martine Richard is a woman, not a man. Secondly, Mr. Speaker, this individual has worked in the Ethics Commissioner's office for 10 years. They were engaged when it was Stephen Harper who was in government. Questioning their credibility, attacking them that way, those kinds of conspiracy theories have a place in Reddit. I'm not sure they have a place in this chamber.
Conspiracy theories, yes.
Leeds, Grenville, Thousand Islands, and Rideau Lakes.
Well, what's not a conspiracy theory is that the Prime Minister Stephen Harper was never found guilty of breaking the Conflict of Interest Act, unlike this Prime Minister. The Conservatives never appointed family members to serve in the Ethics Commissioner's office because they wanted Canadians to have confidence in their public institutions. Unlike this serial law-breaking Prime Minister, twice found guilty of breaking ethics laws, and his Intergovernmental Affairs Minister, who now has his sister-in-law, who is going to make sure that there's no more guilty findings for these Liberals. Will they assure Canadians today that they will appoint someone who is independent and does not have the appearance of a conflict of interest? The
Honourable Government House Leader.
Mr. Speaker, absolutely. In the appointment of any independent officer of Parliament, we always ensure that such individuals are independent and above beyond reproach, and I find it frankly extremely disappointing to take to somebody who has worked in the Ethics Commissioner's office for a decade and is now operating on an interim capacity.
Wow. This is getting pretty juicy, guys.
Okay, the Honourable Government House Leader, you have about 20 seconds left.
Mr. Speaker, when we throw around accusations in this place, when we take public servants who've served their country for more than a decade, I would suggest that we use some, to be judicious in the way that we approach it. This is somebody who was appointed when Stephen Harper was the Prime Minister, who's worked in the Ethics Commissioner's office for a decade, and is acting in an interim capacity while we work with all parties collaboratively to find the right individual to be the permanent Ethics Commissioner.